A savior complex is a belief that a person is responsible for helping other people. Now, I've never been diagnosed with savior complex before, but I often feel that urge, that kind of compulsion to take responsibility for helping others. I honestly don't know where this has ever come from. It just kind of happens whenever I see somebody who might be in need or who is asking for help. I just get triggered to try to take responsibility for their welfare, for their happiness, or for their, state. And I don't even know when it started, to be honest with you. I just always remember there being a period of time where this wasn't something that mattered to me, and to changing and becoming something that really mattered to me. As a child, my brother was always the one who took it on himself to help others. He was always the one who kind of volunteered to connect with people who may not have that chance to connect with others, or who just needed help in some way, shape, or form. And my family would always joke about how he was the one who would give somebody the shirt off his back if he needed to, and they would joke about me being more concerned with reading or science or really helping myself more than helping others. And even when I became an adult, I don't remember too many instances where I kind of went out of my way to help others. I guess you could say I was a little bit self-centered. Now, if you know me today, you might think that that's just crazy. How could that possibly be? Or you might think that, yeah, that checks out. Anthony's pretty self-centered. But the reality is, it wasn't until I did a service trip to Peru that I really started to change my thinking about the world around me and about the needs of others. So I was working in my first job out of college. I was working in industry, and I was really just keeping my head down, trying to make some money, and studying music at the same time, but really focused in on my career. And I was making more money than I had ever made before. I mean, prior to that, I just had, jobs as a cook or as a waiter or anything else. But this was my first serious professional job, working in an office, and so it was a chance for me to actually start my career. But I really wasn't totally satisfied with what I was doing. I enjoyed it. There was part of my job that I really enjoyed. I enjoyed going to work. I enjoyed working in an office, and I felt like the work that I was doing was valuable to the organization I was working for. But I wasn't completely satisfied with why I was doing it. It was really just about the money and just about getting that first kind of job under your belt. And honestly, I thought at that point in time that music was going to be my big career. All my time was really spent on focusing on my professional career and also on my music career. And I remember being at a friend's house. I think it was a friend of a friend even, and someone was talking. They were up on their own soapbox, and they were kind of talking about how awesome they were. And I remember them talking about how they were a vegetarian and how important it was to be a vegetarian, and how they were kind of very proud of being a vegetarian. And I was a vegetarian too at the time. I'd been a vegetarian for a few years, but there was something about his kind of self-righteousness that really rubbed me the wrong way. And it just triggered something in me. It triggered a need to kind of prove that I cared more maybe, or that there was something that I could do that would be more impactful than just being a vegetarian. And so I started looking at the Peace Corps. Now, the Peace Corps is an American kind of volunteer program that's focused on international development. So a lot of people volunteer right out of college, and they'll go for a year to a country around the world, and they'll do work in whatever field they have some competence or expertise. But for me, it was a long-term program, which means I would have to quit my job, and I had student loans to pay back, and I had some credit card debt. So it wasn't feasible for me to go and volunteer for a year. But I found a short-term program that was only a couple of weeks long, and I had some vacation time. It was a chance to go to another country and to do some service work. And there was a program in Peru that kind of worked out in timing-wise, and I had no idea about anything in Peru or the culture or anything like that. It was just kind of like, well, this seems like a decent place to go. It was working at a school, so that I thought would be interesting and fun. So I managed to put together enough money for the flight and enough money to pay for the program. And a couple of weeks later, I was on a plane. I don't think I told almost anyone. I might have told my mom, but I think that was basically it. I might have told my brother, but I just kind of got on a plane and left. And I had no idea what to expect. I knew kind of inherently, because this is what all these programs kind of tell you, oh, it's going to change your life, it's going to change your life, it's going to change your life. So I knew, okay, fine, it's probably going to change my life, but I had no idea how. I didn't know what was the experience was going to be like. And so I spent 2 weeks at that school, just living in the boarding school with the students and interacting with them, interacting with the staff. And we talked kind of half Spanish, half English. And since I had just come back from Italy, half Italian. vegetarian, which means we managed to understand what we were saying. And I, cleaned up around the school, and I painted walls, and I played with the puppies that they had on site. And we went to some local sites with the kids and just interacted with them, just kind of tried to enjoy life. At some point in time, I got horribly sick, and I actually ended up in the hospital for a short period of time, but I got better. I ended up seeing Machu Picchu. And on the way back, I remember sitting on the flight, and when I'm traveling, I kind of mind my own business. I don't really interact with people much. And I was a young guy, so, I didn't really have a lot to say. I remember sitting next to an older guy, and he turned to me and kind of asked me why I was in Peru. And I told him about the service trip and asked him, why were you in Peru? And it turned out he was a hand surgeon. So he was there to volunteer to do hand surgery for some people who needed it in the country. I just remember thinking how interesting and how important that kind of work was. And I remember touching down in Miami. That was where I connected, flying on to DC. And I needed to get something to eat. And so still being a vegetarian, I was thinking about what I wanted to eat. I decided kind of then and there, when I was searching for food, that I didn't want this to be the last time that I did something for someone else. I wanted to make this my career. I wanted to make this something that I did for the rest of my life. And I knew, having gotten really sick in Peru, that I needed to be in the top physical shape that I could possibly be. And so in my head, that meant that I needed to stop being a vegetarian, because in my head it was, I can't be as healthy as I could if I ate meat. I don't know if there's any truth to that. This is just where my head was at the time. And so I remember that being a turning point, and I got myself a turkey sandwich, I think it was. I had my turkey sandwich, and I made that decision that day, and I was going to do something to help other people. I eventually left my job where I was working, and I went to work at a university in Philadelphia, and I started my master's degree in public health. That was me pursuing that decision. That was me pursuing a chance to help others. And I had no idea where my life was eventually going to go. I could not have predicted any of the next things that occurred. But the takeaway is kind of this. I really had to come face to face with other people's needs. And this is not to say that I didn't see people who were in need before. It was just to say that I never really recognized the kind of deep-seatedness of the need that I was witnessing. And so it really took that moment to realize that I needed to change my life to help serve others. And I don't think anything in my childhood could have predicted this. There was nothing in my inherent nature or my upbringing that would have kind of put me onto this path. But I'm really eternally grateful to the people who've given me this opportunity, who kind of reached out, helped me see the experiences of others, to connect with different cultures and other ways of living, and to realize that there was more to my life than just meeting my own needs.